Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Assalatu wassalamu syafi'i anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Welcome everyone. It is an honor for me to be given the opportunity to share my practical knowledge and experience as CEO of An-Nur Specialist Hospital. We are going to discuss a topic that is close to my heart, Shari'ah principle in hospital management, specifically focusing on human resource management and development. This is not just a theoretical lecture. It is about transforming our workplace into environmental of barakah. This module is part of Sharia competency training program for healthcare professionals and Shariah managers, phase 1 for 2025 to 2026. As managers and healthcare practitioners, it is imperative for all of you to have the knowledge and understanding the practices in this highly regulated industry. Hopefully, this type of training will enlighten us as staff of Sharia Compliant Hospital. My name is Dr. Haji Shahruma Sharif. Before we dive in, let me share a little about my journey. I started as an electrical engineer with Lembaga Elektrik Negara, now known as TNB, back in 1977 after graduating from Loughborough University of Technology, UK. And after serving more than 5 years as an LLM scholar, I then moved to Pernet Corporation Berhad, working in telecommunication and IT industry for about 36 years and retired at the age of 55 after being the group CEO for 16 years. But Allah had a different plan for me. My doctor friends invited me to lead an An-Nur Specialist Hospital in 2010. And I served there for more than 13 years, taking it from a 30-bedded shop lot hospital to a 100-bedded multidisciplinary tertiary specialist hospital in Bandar Baru Bangi, Selangor. Presently, An-Nur is building to increase to a 100-bedded hospital and hopefully, inshallah, they'll be successful. At An-Nur, I pioneered the Sharia Compliant Hospital Certification MS 1900, and An-Nur is the first private hospital to be certified. And at the age of 68, I pursued my doctorate thesis titled Sharia Compliant Hospital Framework in Malaysia, which later published into a book titled Sharia Compliant Hospital from Concept to Reality by IIM Press and was launched at the KL International Book Fair in 2024. Why am I telling you this? Because I want you to know that this is not academic theory for me. This is life experience. I've seen how Islamic principle can change our normal daily job as a healthcare provider and turn it into a beacon of trust to community, a place for us to serve for our ajar, for our sawab, inshallah. Let me start with the agenda first. Number one is ta'aruf. I just give you, then we explain item 2, the learning objective of this lecture, discourse. And then number 3, introduction of human resources management and development in a hospital setting. Then we proceed to the subtopic 1, the foundation of Islamic principle in HRMD. And then we go to subtopic 2, which is application of Islamic principle in key HR function. And subtopic 3 is designing Shari'ah aligned HR policies and talent development strategies. And final for subtopic 4 is the challenges and best practices. And finally, we have the conclusion and the key takeaways. Let us begin with some Quranic verses to refresh our conviction towards our Creator Allah Azza wa Jal. Let us start with Surah Az-Zariyat, ayat 57. Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. This is the basic why we are created. As Allah mentioned, we have created jinns and men so that they can worship Allah. So the objective of this, main objective is of our creation is to worship Allah. Then Allah mentioned in Surah ayat 2, الذي خلق موت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. He has created us, death and life, that he may try us, which of us is the best indeed, amalan, ahsanu amala, so that we can serve him with our best deed. And then Allah says further in Surah An-Nahl, ayat 97, Man amila salihan min dhakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'minun falanuhyiyannahu hayatan tayyibah. For those of us who do good deeds, whether man or woman, and believe in Allah, inshallah, then Allah will give us a good life. So this is very important for us, a formula for us to have a good life every day if we do good deeds. And as hospital or healthcare practitioner, we have all the opportunity in our work life, 8 hours a day, to have a good life if we do good deeds, which means that whatever we do during the day, serving our patients, inshallah, with good intention and good deeds that we carry out, amal saleh, and Allah will give us good life. That's all what we want, inshallah. Then Allah continues in Surah Al-Ghafir, ayat 40. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ. Then Allah promised if we continue to do good deeds to Allah, and Allah will place us in Jannah, our ultimate destination. Why do you want to go to Jannah? Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Kahfi, ayat 110. فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَتِهِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. When we want to go to Jannah is for us to meet our Creator. Allah promised us that if you continue to go do this, you are in Jannah, inshallah, and you don't do shirk, the biggest ni'mah will be is to be able to meet our Creator. And that is the most ultimate ni'mah that we can get from our Creator, inshallah. And then, of course, if we, as an organization, Allah promised in Surah Al-Araf, ayat 96, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So, if there is an organization or a group of people or a village where the people are believers and have taqwa, feared Allah, inshallah, Allah will bless them with barakah from heaven or from earth. You do not know when the rizki comes or when the barakah comes. And as servant of Allah, we need the barakah from Allah, even if our risk is limited. But with Allah's barakah, inshallah, our life will always fill with qana'ah. That means feeling sufficient and shukur. And finally, our profession, we need the understanding that this profession have two basic culture. First, caring culture, and second is amanah. If we do not cultivate this culture, our staff may not be able to stay long in this profession, because we need people who are very caring and who are with amanah in carrying out their job, because there are so many. We will also explain what is amanah later. But most important thing is that there are many confidentiality in handling our patients. From this training, inshallah, hopefully the learning objective is that by the end of the session, hopefully all the participants will achieve three main outcomes. And we have to understand this. First, to be able to explain the foundational Islamic principle and values that should guide HRMD in any hospital setting. Words like Tawheed, Amanah, Adil, Ihsan are the practical words, not just abstract. And understanding these fundamental concepts and practices is very vital in our daily life. Second objective is that we will learn how to apply this Islamic principle to key HR functions. Example, recruitment, training, performance management, pay, employee welfare, and we'll move from why we do it and how to do it. And third is that we strengthen your capacity as leaders, HR practitioners, to design and implement HR policies that are truly aligned with Shari'ah. This is not about adding a halal stamp to all policies. It's about fundamental shift in mindset, promoting accountability, ethical conduct, and organizational excellence in line with Maqasid Shari'ah. So whether you are hospital senior management or departmental head, Shari'ah manager, or an HR officer, hopefully you will leave the session with actionable items and insights and ready to take up the challenges. So let us begin with introduction, HRMD in hospital setting. So the question now is, what is the most critical asset in the hospital? Is it the MRI machine, the ICU ventilators, the building itself? No, it is the people, the most critical asset. A broken machine can be replaced in weeks, but a poorly trained, unmotivated, or unjustly treated nurse can affect patient lives in real time. Sometimes can cause permanent damage. Hospital is a service-based organization and it runs 24 hours, 7 days a week. And HRMD covers everything from hiring to learning, performance evaluation, compensation, well-being. Therefore, the importance of trained staff is never underestimated. These nursing staff, for example, are exposed to many hazards and hardship when executing their duties. Some even have burnout, and these are the challenges that we face. As you know, that hospital is an intensive people organization. So we have to ensure that the staff has to be trained before being placed them at frontline. Quality care is very much depend on competent and trustworthy and train staff is very competent, very important, so that they are competent enough to handle the patient's requirement. Whatever decision by HR can affect one, patient safety, staff moral, if not conducted with justice, service quality may drop, and the hospital integrity can be compromised. So it's important that we have to conduct proper exercise, make sure that the staff are competent enough, well-trained, and the quality that they serve the patients are of higher standards. This slide provides all the 8 important functions in the hospital setting for HRMD. This covers all the function of the HR, and the last item, succession planning, which is often neglected in many organizations. We have to ensure that anyone is not can be replaced, and you have to make sure that there are tagging for especially important posts. Somebody is tagging against him. And then the question is, so why do we need to integrate HRMD with Islamic principle? You have to understand that Islam is a complete way of life. And in Surah Al-Imran, ayat 19, Allah says, Inna dina inna Allah Islam. The religion before Allah is Islam. And again in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayat 3, Allah says, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaikum ni'mati wa raditu lakumul Islam dina. Allah mentioned that this day have I perfected your religion for you, completed my favor upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your religion. So we can see that the only religion acceptable by Allah, the Creator, is Islam. So Islam is a complete way of life, and it provides the solution for in our daily life. The Quran came to solve human problem. And we spent 8 hours, more than 8 hours at the hospital. And this work that we are doing can be counted as ibadah, as a reward, if we have good intention and doing it with ikhlas. And it's a reward to us. So conventional HR often focus primarily on efficiency, cost cutting, and profit. But Islamic HRMD adds a crucial spiritual and ethical dimension to what we are doing. It views human resources as a trust, amanah, from Allah. So all operational decisions will need to align with maqasid Shari'ah, the objective of Shari'ah. And Rasulullah SAW mentioned in the hadith, Khairun nas anfa'u nas. The best of people are those who are beneficial to the ummah or to others. So our HR system need to reflect that. So we are not managing resources like machine, but we are caring for soul from Allah, whom Allah has entrusted to us as leaders of an organization. So we have to support justice, compassion, trust, and excellence. And we have to connect operationalization with maqasid Shari'ah. So every time we must remember this. What is the link between HRMDS and maqasid Shari'ah? So let us connect HRMDS directly to the higher objective of Islamic law, the objective of Shari'ah. Imagine there are 5 hifzul, preservation, protection, and every HR policy must support these 5 hifzul. First, protection of faith, hifzul ad-din, which means that we have to hire staff who uphold Islamic ethics, or at minimum respect them, and we enable them to perform their salat, for example. This is very important in any organization as Muslim. There is no excuse for us not to carry out our salat, even if we have to do jama'. Example, when taking a job in the OT, it may take 7 to 8 hours of operation procedure. Then we have to do jama' for our prayers, maybe Zohor with Asr or Maghrib with Isha. So still, we do not have to forget our qada. We have to do jama', inshallah. Second is protection of life, hifzul nafs. This means that we have to ensure only competent, well-trained professionals care for the patients. We cannot cut corners in terms of training to save money. This will be a violation of the principle. Third is the protection of intellect, hifzul akal. This means continuous learning and evidence-based practice. Hospitals that discourage talent growth will fail in their duty. Fourth is protection of lineage, hifzul nas. This is to ensure that our family tree is there, so we can trace the nasab. Reasonable maternity leave, we have to ensure staff enjoy that flexible hours for parents in a safe work environment free from harassment. And fifth is protection of mal, property, hifzul amal, which means the timely wages with no financial exploitation, no delayed salary, no unclear deduction. When HR policies serve these 5 goals, we create a healthy, ethical, and spiritually grounded workforce. And that is the ultimate objective. And it is not idealistic, but it is achievable. Then the maqasid of Shari'ah can translate into each objective serving specific purpose. For example, competent staff may protect life of the patient they attend. Similarly, the protection of dignity from harassment of our patient through fair treatment, which is part of hifzul an-nas. We have also hifzul mal, protecting wealth through just pay. Then we go to the Islamic principle, the core principle. The first one is Tawheed, which is the ultimate. Accountability is not to the senior management, not to the shareholder, not to the Minister of Health. It is to Allah. When you internalize that, management becomes an act of worship. So every signature, every interview, every performance review, we will be asked later by Allah. So we have to ensure that accountability is to Allah. Second is amanah and mas'uliyah, trust and responsibility. Every HR role, from recruiter to departmental head, is a sacred trust. We have to attend to all complaints from staff or patient, because this is important as a feedback. Thirdly, on adl, justice. This means that fairness in hiring, evaluation, promotion, and discipline, no nepotism, no discrimination. If your cousin is less qualified than another candidate, then you cannot hire him just because he is your family. So we have to be adil. And fourth is ihsan, excellent. This means that going beyond minimum requirement, treating employees with kindness, respect, and dignity. Even when they make mistake, you do have to correct them, but the counseling should be done in private. The next slide shows the supporting Islamic principle that are also vital in an organization, for example, shura. Shura is consultation before a decision is made. It is good to practice shura, getting ideas and opinions from other management staff. The Jama'ah will enjoy rahmah. Allah will bestow rahmah when a decision is made through shura. And when there is a strong ukhuwah, He will also bestow rahmah. Another important principle is karamah, whereby preserving honor among staff is very respectful character, and leaders have to be humble to their staff. The concept of tawhid in management is explained in this slide. Most important basic concept to recognize the sovereignty of Allah in all aspects of our life. When the management has the understanding of tawhid, then there should not be any abuse of power by the leaders. All policies reflect integrity and ethical coherence in the decision and action. How to apply Tawhid in acara? Staff is being viewed with dignity. Through applying Islamic principle, the organization will promote sincerity, honesty, and responsibility. So the role model should be practiced by the top management to ensure that Tawhid as value can be seen in the practices of the organization. Another pillar of Islamic principle is amanah. Many activities of the organization will require amanah, especially in a hospital setting. The staff are exposed to patients' personal data, and it requires amanah to preserve the confidentiality of the patient's data. In Surah Al-Ash, ayat 21, Allah says, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل رأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. If we have sent the Quran to the mountain, verily thou would see it humble itself and cleave asunder for fear of Allah. The mountain is not able to carry out the amanah of the Quran, and it's human being that are given the amanah to carry out their responsibility and duty. That's required by the Quran and Allah. Another important aspect is also responsibility, mas'uliyah, and accountability, which is taken up by every managers to conduct their duties and decision making. Managers have to understand their role and responsibility, so everyone is to abide by decision unless it is against Shari'ah. So in practice, you say that the managers are accountable, and the staff are also accountable for performance and conduct. So there's linkages between the staff and the managers who owns every responsibility or duties that have been given to them. And the role of Shari'ah managers in healthcare institutions, they are not just advisors, but we have to highlight here that managers have to well versed with the HR policies in order to counsel their staff. There are times that a staff will have to resort to certain HR items, and it would be good that if the managers can handle firsthand before they have to seek HR department's knowledge or understanding. So we have to be more staff friendly so that staff can approach the managers without fear. And managers should also understand the Islamic values factored to pay impatient, especially Salat. This slide gives you the governance and compliance requirement, and it's important implementing Shari'ah principle. Governance framework will be required to set up before obtaining Shari'ah compliance certification. The two following slides discuss on the function of the committee. The first is Shari'ah Advisory Council. Any issue concerning fatwa on medical procedures which needs to be discussed in the SC can be referred especially to fatwa that has already been issued by the International Fatwa Council. The other is the SCO, who will monitor day-to-day operation in line with the Islamic principle. Shari'ah Compliance Officer, SCO, has responsibility to conduct training on Islamic ethics to nurses and healthcare givers. The other important thing is the presence of Shari'ah Implementation Task Force. This task force is to conduct Shari'ah critical control points audit, and if there is non-compliance, then they have to ensure that and inform to management so that action can be taken to correct those NC or non-compliance. This slide shows you the prohibited activities that cannot qualify for Shari'ah compliance, as mentioned in this slide. There are 5 prohibited activities, which include: first, if you are dealing with haram products like pork or alcohol. And then 2 is anything to do with gambling. And then 3rd is interest-related financial activities, riba. And then 4th is pornography. And 5th is anything to do which is non-adil or not justice or discriminatory in nature. So that is also prohibited. So the next 3 slides provide what are the domains of compliance, the Shari'ah compliance requirement. And the third part is how to implement it practically. The main domains are: first, patient care. Second is medication and treatment. In patient care, you have to make sure that there is proper gender-appropriate care with chaperones when needed. And then you have to ensure that patients' karamah or dignity and aurat have to be preserved. And then you have to give proper spiritual support in case the patient needs. Then bed orientation towards Qibla for critical ill patients, and prayer facilities and wudu access in wards. there are other facilities like tayammum to be prepared for the patient in case they cannot use water. And then medication and treatment preference must be to halal certified medication pharmacy. But if there is no alternative, you can still use non-halal medication, but you have to get consent to the patient so that patients are aware what they are getting. Any non-compliance to Shari'ah will need to attend immediately, or else it can be easily spread by word of mouth, which will be more damaging if not attended. If there is no alternative, as I mentioned, then patient consent to prescribe non-halal prescription will be required. In terms of food and nutrition and architectural design, if the food requirement of the hospital is outsourced, then the supplier need to have halal certification. In terms of architectural design, you have to allow for prayer space and the toilet design avoid direct Qibla alignment. This is important. You have to ensure that the bed location is not and the toilet design. The bed must be easily towards Qibla direction so that the patient doesn't need to move around. Privacy preserving layouts respecting aura. And it's good to have Islamic geometric motif in the design. If the building is old building, then there should be a Qibla direction on the ceiling of the roof. In terms of human resources compliance, then it must be based on Quwwah and Amanah. The other government process compliance is that it should have management commitment, written policy to show that the management have commitment to carry out Shariah compliance in the organization. And there should be budget allocation for the training of the staff and also for audit purpose, because audit surveillance will be carried out every year annually, and 3 months before the audit team comes, the internal auditor have to carry out first and to see what are the non-compliance NCs and to rectify it before the audit team from SIRIM comes to inspect. So that has to be done and has to be minuted in the management committee and action taken, whatever required to make to turn NCs. And then on the SOP, standard operating procedure, all the clinical and admin SOP reviewed and approved by the Shari'ah Advisory Council. There should be clear protocols for handling Shari'ah sensitive scenario. Example, a blood transfusion or organ donation or anaphylization. The Shari'ah critical control point must be spelled out, the SOP. Then we have the audit committee, internal audit, regular Shari'ah compliance audit, internal and external. External is once a year, but internal they can have twice a year. But before the external auditor comes, then you have to ensure that all NC item has to be rectified first. And then on the training and capacity building, there is mandatory Islamic medical ethics training for all clinical staff. There are also specialized certification for Shari'ah compliant officer to attend training organized by external parties. And then the fifth item is the annual Shari'ah compliance report published alongside financial statement. So as a Shari'ah compliant hospital, you have to mention this in your report. And also any fatwa issued or corrective action that have been taken. So this is figure which shows the core pillars and also the major pillars of Shari'ah compliant framework. So the Shari'ah compliance framework is a value added on top of the Facilities or Healthcare Facilities and Services Act 1998. Any hospital has to be approved by MOH first for operation, then they can add on for Shari'ah compliant requirement. So the three major core principles mentioned in the figure. First, they must comply with principle of halal and haram. Second, the value-based operation, adab or akhlaq, or medical ethics, Islamic ethics, has to be observed. And third is any decision and action taken must be in accordance with objective of Sharia or maqasid Sharia. So these are the three core principles that must be adhered to for Sharia compliance. And then we have the four major pillars. One is the SOP with Sharia critical control points spelled out. Second is the development of the staff, clinical and non-clinical. So training has to be given to the staff so that they are well aware. Any new items, term of fatwa or anything to do with Sharia compliance. And then also infrastructure facilities. The hospital have to provide facilities for Muslims to carry out their duties. And then fourth item is system and also technologies to enhance their efficiency and also productivity. As Sharia compliance hospital, you still have to use latest technology so that you can diagnose the disease for have an accurate diagnosis using latest technology, for example, MRI or CT scan. The supporting ethical healthcare decision in the next slide, I emphasize. So there are 10 decision items regarding first, beginning of life, second, end of life, third, organ donation, fourth, the reproduction and family planning, fifth, the patient rights and informed consent, and then we have the gender interaction and modesty, and then dietary and medication, then mental health care, spiritual care, and then clinical research and medical education, and then also resources allocation and healthcare economics. So this is very important, supporting ethical healthcare in the Sharia compliant hospital, because there are items already discussed in Islamic fatwa, and it's also accessible through International Islamic Fatwa Council and also International Islamic Fiqh Academy in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So these all items regarding Islamic decision on those related to fatwa. So, for example, this organ donation, for example. Okay, they are so detailed in here. Abortion in terms of reproduction, so you can uh, get more detailed knowledge if you are very interested. Abortion, for example, you cannot do it if it's more than 120 days uh, contraction. If it's already inception, then you cannot abort after 120 days. Then you have also other things like gender interaction and modesty. You have the chaperone policy, then the separate waiting areas for men or women, segregation in terms of gender. And then we have also the dietary medication law. If it's porcine product, if there's no alternative, then you have to get consent and inform the patient. Then regarding clinical research and medical education is also important. And then also resource allocation and healthcare economics. So we have, you cannot use riba or interest in hospital financing. So that is not Shariah in that sense. Shariah compliant. So in terms of supporting ethical decision, healthcare decision, Shariah compliant hospital does not simply add a prayer room or halal to be just Shariah, but there are other fundamental requirements based on around Islamic principle, Tawhid, Amanah, Adli, Ihsan, and Maqasid Shariah. So every healthcare decision from IVF to ICU, trash, or from NDR, do not resuscitate orders to porcine medication is related to both medical evidence and Islamic jurisprudence. So there are clear terms. The Shariah managers, hospital committee, and clinical staff work together to ensure that all these ethical healthcare decisions are first medically sound, then permissible Islamically, morally excellent, and then just and compassionate with rahmah, inshallah. So these are important things to consider in taking consideration. So we have another subtopic, which is adli, justice in workplace management. You have to be seen and practiced as just. So there should be, if you look at that, equal opportunity for everyone, every staff, merit-based decision, and then fair evaluation at the end of the year, non-discriminatory treatment, and you have to have proper disciplinary action. And finally, the remuneration must be adil to all staff, depending on their position. So Allah does command you in Surah Nisa ayat 58 to render back your trust to those whom they are due. And when they are judged between man and man, that they judge with justice. This is very important. Inna Allah ya'murukum an tu'addu amanati ila ahliha. فإذا حكمتم وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل إن الله دائما يعظكم به إن الله كان سميعا بصيرا. Ihsan is another important attribute, excellence beyond compliance. We are judged for our amalan in Surah Al-Mulk, ahsanu amalah. So we are urged to do the best of our deed among us. So ihsan should be reflected in our respectful treatment to all our staff as managers, proactive development, and then compassionate supervision and quality-focused work culture, and go beyond the legal minimum standard. So we have to move higher. And maqasid Shari'ah is applicable in HR division framework. In terms of training and development, is a major pillars in Shari'ah compliance. And the aim is to have Shari'ah-driven service excellence. We call SDMC. Just not compliant, but Shari'ah-driven and service excellent. Training is an Islamic framework, must be holistic. We cannot only train clinical skill, but we also need to train spiritual development skills, such as understanding the faith of patient right, the ethics and of life care, and the importance of intention. And then we also need ethical development, such as avoiding gossip and backbiting. So there should be a non-toxic environment, inshallah. In terms of work, in Islam, it's considered as ibadah when the work is halal and the product is also halal. And in case of hospital setting, the service provided is more demanding and the staff are facing more hardship when serving patients. Important element is sincerity in carrying out the job and never show your temper in front of patients. Always smile and greet your patient. In Islam, work is not a burden to be endured until the end of the week. It is an act of worship, but only if done with the right intention. The three concepts here is first niyat, to renew your intention every morning. Say to yourself, I'm serving patient for the sake of Allah. Whatever you do is part of ibadah. That's it. Second is itqan, proficiency. We have to do it with the best of our intention. Allah loves that. When one of you does a job, he does it with excellence. And third item is taqwa, God consciousness, acting rightly even when no one is watching you. No need to fake your overtime hours, for example, because Allah knows. The implication for HR is clear. We must create systems that remind, enable, and reward ethical behavior, not just productivity. Now we go to subtopic 2, how to apply all this application of this principle in specific HR function, starting with recruitment. Fairness and meritocracy means hiring the most qualified person, not the best connected. This is a direct application of Adli. If the CEO's nephew applies, he must still be evaluated fairly. Non-discrimination means no bias based on race, gender, or nationality. The Prophet reminds us that no Arab is superior to a non-Arab except in taqwa. And Shari'ah consideration includes avoiding interviews during period time. Do not schedule at 1 p.m. on Friday, for example. Also ensure that the job roles do not involve haram activities. If a role involves serving alcohol, handling pork products, or managing interest-based transactions, then it is to be avoided, and inform relevant person in charge. Practical tips include a question in the interview about the candidate's understanding of work as ibadah. The good practice in recruitment should be strictly followed and no nepotism. The candidate should be given fair treatment without proper job-related question. Pre-test before the interview, example, recitation of Al-Quran can be conducted to evaluate their level of fluency of Quran recitation and inform of the requirement to improve in the next level. So we have to ensure that every staff that we engage or we recruit must be able at least to recite the Quran. Besides their clinical skill, there are risks in recruitment, as mentioned, especially in the shortage of nurses these days. Some of the common risks mentioned in the candidate use external influence to get the job. So political interference, example, especially candidate aligned to a political party, will not influence the decision to engage a person. You cannot show such preference because the concern may be detrimental to the organization. So on the training and development is also to be applied with Islamic principle. The objective is to produce professional competency and allow spiritual consciousness to be able to observe Islamic demand in their daily lives while serving the patient. And then the type of training relevant to the staff concerned. So the organization will need to do or to carry out gap analysis to see which relevant training for each staff. So there are all these examples of development areas: clinical and non-clinical competency, ethics, professionalism, Shari'ah awareness in hospital operation, leadership and decision making, burnout prevention and resilience. So these are all important in carrying out duty as healthcare givers. Then we go to the performance management. Performance deal with KPI and patient safety with Islamic values. Early of the year, there should be clear objective and KPI so that when end of the year, there is no dispute between managers and staff. The way the performance is conducted based on Islamic principles should be fair and evidence-based and transparent. The purpose of the performance is to promote accountability and also continuous improvement. Staff should be also given opportunity to respond and dialogue. The manager should need to coach if necessary to improve the staff performance. Performance management Islam is built on 3 pillars. First, accountability. Second, transparency. And third is valuation, constructive valuation. Next, we go to the remuneration. For hard-working staff who expect better remuneration after hard years' work, Islamic guidance provides timely payment and avoidance exploitation. For hospital in government or private setting, it is quite known the scale and the salary structure. Only in the private, the differential is quite significant as compared to public practice. On remuneration, justice and fairness mean equal pay for equal work. So Islam does not allow discrimination in wages based on gender, ethnicity, or nepotism. If a female nurse and a male nurse have the same role and do the same work duties, then they should be paid almost equal. And timely payment is a direct command from the Prophet. Hadith says, give the worker his wages before his sweat dries. So delayed salary, unclear deduction, or late overtime payment are not just administrative. It is a violation of amanah. As HR leaders, you must ensure the payroll system are efficient and transparent. and fair. If there is a cash flow shortage, then the lower staff must be given priority over the management, and this has to be informed of the delay to the relevant staff. Employee welfare is not a luxury, it's a right. Remember, a cat for caregiver gives better care. In terms of employee welfare and well-being, Islam provides guidelines for an employee to be considerate to all staff in terms of their physical needs and spiritual needs. The welfare of the staff with medical and other benefits rendered aims to ensure staff will be happy to serve the company. The family environment should be cultivated to ensure staff are not easily be attracted to external pull factor. Since there are shortage of hospital staff or nursing staff, then we should not try staff to find other places due to push factor. Employees' rights should be extended with respect and fairness and given equal opportunity to develop their career in the organization. The orientation week for new staff should be carried out to explain, especially term and condition of the employment scheme, their rights and their benefits. First, on safety, based on principle of la darar, no harm, means both physical and psychological safety. No bullying, no unsafe working condition, no sexual harassment, zero tolerance. Second, if balance, it means no systematic overwork. Should provide balanced life. Rest, family home, family time, and worship time are their rights. Ibadah, to carry out their ibadah, not favors. Then the third item is dignity, means no humiliation, no spying on minor mistake. If sometimes forget to sign a form, do not call them out in a full meeting. Send a private reminder, PM to them. Now we have WhatsApp. It's much easier. And health means access to prayer space, halal food in the cafeteria, and mental health support. It is good if we can give free counseling service for staff, and you can see dramatically sick leave will be reduced. Now we go to subtopic. Now we are entering into subtopic 3. Now let us discuss how to operationalize these values into actual policy. Designing Shari'ah-aligned HR policies and talent development strategies. So first steps is to see what do you have, audit your existing HR policies. Okay, your HR policy should include clear objectives, defined procedures and responsibility. You must have a grievances and review mechanism, and then also confidentiality protection. So whoever report something, there must be protected, and then monitoring and audit provision. So, and you can also look at the recruitment, leave, discipline, pay, identify anything that conflicts with Sharia. For example, do you have policy that forces staff to take interest-based current, for example, from the company? So if there is there, then you need to change. And probably you can benchmark with some other hospital that is having Sharia compliant. And then you can also develop Sharia compliance SOP. Example, policy on halal income that avoids riba-based loans, policy on compassionate leave that respect family emergency, not just death, but also serious illness of a parent, staff's parent. policy on intergender interaction that maintains professional, respectful boundaries, no exclusion, but also no extreme segregation that disrupt work. Probably step 3, get approval after all these changes that you have made, get approval from Shari'ah committee before implementation. Do not assume something's fine. But after all this, then you have to communicate policies clearly to all the staff. Although it is not a bureaucracy, this is protecting the organization from spiritual and legal risks. These policies should include items like grievances, as mentioned just now. What is more important is all the HR policies should align with Islamic principle, will have a consistent with Maqasid Sharia. The SOP that developed should include those mentioned. Candidates should be required to declare those unnatural behavior, example, LBGT, LGBT, and also often neglected. It's two referees that should be referred after the interview if selected. So the area that it covers a lot are these probation assessment, performance review cycle, disciplinary processes, staff development planning, important, and also how to engage in the to handle exit interviews when somebody wants to resign. Here you can see SASMEC core values, what the acronym term as REST2. It has 5 core values. Responsibility, which is also being discussed earlier, mas'uliyah, and then excellent, itqan, or then sincerity, ikhlas, and then trust, amanah, and unity, tawheed. So all this has been discussed, and I'm sure it has been briefed on the core values, which are quite similar what we have discussed. Then the role of Shari'ah managers is very important, that all the managers, they are not just advisors sitting in the office. They are guardian and custodian of compliance. So their role includes ensuring that all the HR policies do not violate Sharia. For example, avoiding interest-based loan for staff, or preventing unethical recruitment practice, or questioning some stuff on the discriminatory, like against women. They should also support ethical healthcare decisions, such as fair patient allocation during bed shortages or staff rotation during religious holidays or public holidays. So leaders and HR practitioners must model Islamic values in conduct. They should also respond to staff issues responsibly, prevent abuse of authority, build trust through consistency. So this is very important. Also, they must model Islamic values first. As people say, walk to the top. A leader who prays on time, speaks truthfully, and avoid gossip, sets the standard. Every leader has to be a model for staff to follow, and empower HR to enforce Sharia policies even against senior members, management, even if that case we have to bring it up. And also regular training, especially for managers and the training should include adil, justice, and also ihsan in supervision. HR practitioners are, as we all know, gatekeepers of the amanah. They must resist pressure to hire unethically or hide violation. They bridge the gap between clinical needs and Islamic values, and they monitor governance, ensuring no bribery in procurement or hiding of medical mistakes. Policy alone are not enough. Leaders must model Islamic values. They should set the standards. If a leader is seen to be dishonest or unjust, no policy will fix the culture. So a HR practitioner must be empowered to enforce Shari'ah policies. And there must be regular training for managers. They must resist pressure to hire unethically or hide violation. If you face such pressure, document it and escalate to the Shari'ah committee. Here it's important, how do we build a value-driven organization culture? How do we move from policy to a living culture? First, there must be clear, visible commitment from the top management. CEO and chairman should jointly communicate values at town halls, in emails, in annual report, not once, but repeatedly, so that it drive into our head. Secondly, reward ethical behaviors, include ihsan as a performance indicator, or itqan, excellence, as we mentioned that just now. Recognize staff who show exceptional kindness or integrity. Maybe we have a monthly ihsan award. And then safe reporting mechanism, where confidential channel for ethical concern, whistleblowing without fear or retaliation. Staff must know they will not be punished for reporting a problem. This is important. And fourth, regular reminders. Tazkirah or Shah, halakah or Shah on ethics, work ethics during staff meeting. 5 minutes on hadith of itqan, for example. The outcome for the hospital is where staff feel spiritually valued, not just exploited for production. So every managers before their departmental meeting must give tazkirah for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, short, to remind staff the importance of whatever principle that you have to mention during the meeting. Then how to align the strategy with Maqasid Shari'ah. Conventional HR aims to maximize output for employee, even if that leads to burnout. However, Maqasid Shari'ah balance productivity with employees' well-being, protecting life. There is Maqasid Shari'ah, preservation of life, Hizul Nafs. Then conventional HR minimize training costs to save money, but Maqasid align HR invest in holistic development, Hizul Aql. And then we have the conventional HR retains talent through high pay alone, but Maqasid align with retained through justice, respect, and purpose, protecting faith. Hizbuddin. Conventional HR aims to legal compliance only. Maqasid aims to ethical and Shariah compliance, fulfilling the trust of Amanah. The competitive advantage is clear. The highly motivated, low burnout, ethically driven workforce will always good for patient, good for the staff, and good for the hospital long-term sustainability. This is important. We go to subtopic 4, which deals with challenges and best practices. Challenges include resistance to change for some staff who are not ready to learn new things. Also, at times, there are inconsistency in management commitment due to financial constraint. Due to shortage of nursing staff, they may be burnt out and normal operation may be affected. This could cause patient safety being compromised. So balancing regulatory requirement versus Shari'ah principle have to be navigated in the best practices to meet governance expectation. There should be measurable indicators of how much has been achieved. If the best practices are followed, inshallah, staff will embrace high achiever culture and it can performance. So we believe that the environment is important. There should not be toxic environment. Shariah principle and institutional values should be upheld, and this should be communicated to all staff regularly, because we want to ensure that all the regulatory requirements is in line with the Shariah principle, and every staff uphold this principle, inshallah. So best practices, as we know, include 7 items there mentioned. First, leadership commitment from top management. HR policy review through Maqasid Shariah lens. So should be at least once in 3 years. And regular staff training and awareness to ensure that staff are well trained and also they are given enough information to handle whatever patient's requirement. And then consultation between HR, Sharia, and operation. This should be a regular, at least fortnightly or monthly meeting, once a month, so that things that is taken place are well informed to all the relevant operation guys. And then measurable implementation indicators. So every implementation that we have agreed upon, planned upon, should be measured and then give the indicators. And then documentation and audit should be carried out consistently, especially internal auditors will have to do 2-3 months before the external audit comes for their audit surveillance, yearly audit surveillance by SIRIM. And then staff should have channels for reporting their grievances. Here we have case example. Just creating a scenario. First example is recruitment dilemma. A department head pushes for appointment of preferred candidate despite another applicants scoring better on objective criteria. So from Shariah point of view and HR issues that we listed, it must be amanah, justice, properly, and transparency, governance, integrity, and then risk too. service quality. So those are reason why we have to follow according to Shari'ah and HR. So the appropriate response to is to follow well-documented processes, preserve evidence-based selection, require justification and review. And then what is important is the panel integrity must be protected. So the next case is about staff well-being. So this is case of burnout. Hospital unit faces severe workload pressure, staff fatigue is rising. So errors are increasing and morale is declining. So the relevant principle that we have to look at is how we preserve staff balanced life, dignity, compassion, responsibility of leadership, and justice in workload management. So those are relevant principles to evaluate or to assess the case. Then the possible response that they have to review staffing, whether it's enough staff, or we have to get locums. And then we have to do rota adjustment, rotation, and then maybe we have to provide psychosocial support. And then how the leave is being managed. And then supervisor have to give some support, counseling to the staff. This slide shows you that we have to have the continuous improvement and monitoring mechanism. Okay. Why is important is that we want to know how staff can be developed through feedback. So we must have a policy to see how staff can improve and provide staff feedback. And then if there is any complaint from their supervisors, and then we have to do a proper training outcome. And also, if need be, you have to give a warning letter for them to improve. Because continuous improvement requires ongoing review. One of the major items is Customer Satisfaction Index, CSI, and this has to be conducted quarterly or half yearly because it's part of the annual audit requirement by the external auditors from SIRIN. And when you review HR practices, you should ask some of these questions. Are staff treated with dignity? Does the policy reduce harm and support well-being? Is implementation consistent? Does it align with Maqasid Shari'ah, for example? So these are questions that you can think of so that we have a proper assessment on the staff. The next 3 slides discuss on the key compliances, challenges, and mitigation strategies. The 5 items identified are medication with non-halal ingredients. Why we have to ensure that this key compliance challenges, because sometimes we miss some of these, especially if you don't itemize it. So here are 2 items, medication with non-halal ingredient. This is Hibzul Nafs. If life-saving treatment is refused, then it can be violation. Then we can also develop fiqh alawiyat, priorities. Permits otherwise prohibited means when no halal alternative exists. So we have to inform our patients if there's no alternative for halal medication. Then we have mixed gender clinical teams, risk of khalwa or aura exposure. So we have to implement chaperone policy, use same gender caregivers for intimate procedure where feasible, train staff on professional Islamic etiquette adapt. And then financial sustainability versus Shari'ah compliance, pressure to adopt interest-based financing or non-compliance investment. Partner with Islamic financial institution. You can also develop wakaf-based endowment model for capital projects. Then fourth item is regulatory conflict. Sometimes we have legal regulation that may contradict Islamic ethics. For example, reproductive services. So we have to check with our SAC, Shari'ah Advisory Panel. Establish clear ethical boundaries in Islamic charter, in hospital charter, engage with regulators through maslahah-based advocacy. And then finally, on the staff competency gap, consistent application of Shariah principle across department. We have to have a tiered training program for all staff, so that especially those who are frontline attending to a patient directly, they must be given proper training on Islamic principle. Okay, then we have in the summary and conclusion. So first of all, just to recap the key principle of Islamic principle. So all this that we have touched on, Tauhid, Amanah, Mas'uliyah, Adil, Ihsan, Shura, Rahmah, Maqasid Syariah, Karamah, and work as ibadah. I think these are quite known actually to us, every item of it. Then why the leadership commitment matters? Because without leadership, then policy remains symbolic. We need all the commitment from the senior management, and trust will also decline. But with leadership commitment, then we can see ethics are normalized, HR system become credible, then staff moral also improve, and there is going to be organizational excellence being strengthened. And then also on Sharia, Maqasid Sharia and Sharia compliant Islamic principle must shape both values and system. And then the HR will be, if aligned with Sharia, will promote justice, accountability, as we know, compassion, excellence, and public trust. So Maqasid Sharia provides a practical framework for policy and decision making, as we all know. Then a hospital becomes truly Sharia aligned, not only by what it provides, but by how it recruits or develops staff and leads, and also reward them and cares for its people. So Sharia compliant hospital must reflect all these values. The key takeaways, we are almost there. Islamic principle must shape both values and system. So we must have a system, proper system, that caters for embedded values, Islamic embedded values, because Islam have nilai, adab, and akhlaq. So that is not easily seen until you practice it. So a Shari'ah MD in a hospital is central to Shari'ah compliance, hospital management, and must be grounded in Tawheed, in Amanah, in Adil and Ihsan. So it must be practiced and seen, being practiced. Maqasid Shari'ah provides a practical framework for policy decision making and also HR function. And important thing is recruitment, training, performance, pay, and all this welfare should be Shari'ah compliant without compromising excellence. Leaders and HR practitioners are trustees, and they must model, they must be a model for the staff to emulate and enforce Islamic values. So all the leaders and HR practitioners in a Sharia compliant hospital must have certain values, and they must be able to give tazkirah before a meeting, for example. And Sharia aligned HR promotes justice, accountability, that we have already mentioned earlier. Compassion, excellence, itqan, public trust, ihsan. The ultimate goal is a value-driven hospital culture that serves patient as an act of ibadah. So this is very important for any Sharia compliant hospital. So that's all, I think. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لكم. جزاك الله خير. May Allah bless all of you always. وبالله التوفيق والهداية. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you very much.